Hey everybody, Doug here from 2 Plus Tough, and the reason I look so disheveled is because I just woke up to a whole bunch of news. I had completely forgotten that this weekend was like an open day for Warhammer. They have a whole bunch of these little things throughout the year, but anyway, there's a whole bunch of reveals, and so I didn't realize until I woke up. My phone was blowing up with information. And that's what we're going to chat about today. And so this is for a lot of folks who I've said before, they like having someone read them, kind of the news to keep them up to date because they are driving and all kind of stuff. And so, yeah, that's exactly what we're going to do. If you have not joined us for one of these before, basically what I'll do is pull up the reveal page from on the Warhammer community site, and we're going to go through as they reveal the information. So it's actually in reverse order, as if you were reading it. You open the page now and just chat about the various things. I'm going to read it once as it is and then kind of go back and give my thoughts, things I'm excited for, that kind of thing. So without further ado, let's do that. So we'll go over here, go to the share screen, make sure that worked. Yep, it did work. Okay. I would like to double check. Sometimes the auto keys don't work. So they give a big welcome. Warhammer World's going down. And the first few are kind of showing off some stuff that we already knew were sort of coming. And so, yeah. Let's see. So we have some cool pics of Warcry happening. This table looks a little sparse, but that's okay. Is this Warcry? Yeah, it has to be, right? Yeah, it is. Okay, there's just a different color scheme for the Untamed Beasts in their studio one. I was like, what? But okay, right on. So, we got some work right here. They formally introduced the Shattered Storm Vaults. Ravaged lands just seems to be kind of their term for like, I don't know, like realms or battle location, whatever the sector from the fighting was. Looks like Noseblunt over on Twitch recovered from the earthquake issues. I think so. I did a live stream last night and everything worked fine. So I reset everything on my end and it all worked pretty good. But thank you for asking. So yeah, I'm excited for this. I was actually planning on grabbing a set of this terrain regardless because I want to build a gladiatorial pit for Warcry. So when I do narrative missions, one of them is going to be a straight up, I'm going to like put a bunch of weapon bits from 40k and AOS and make a little gladiator pit. So that's kind of an idea that I have for a narrative thing. And of course, they're just showing off all the Warcry stuff that we've seen and giving us these nice artsy pictures of all the warbands in one place. Again, if you followed me before, like I was trying to find the articles with all these cool pictures and stuff, but they kind of kept moving the images around on their site. I'm not sure if they, I don't know, made a mistake or what, deleted some of the actual pictures. But now we're going to jump into something. I'm going to go to the top of this release thing. Here we go, 1030. 2 new battle tomes announced. Earlier this year, we told you that every Grand Alliance would be getting at least 1 new battle tome. We're incredibly excited to announce the next 2. Both of these books reinvent much-loved factions, bringing them into 2nd edition of the game in style. First up, we have the Orruk War Clans. So, first thing you will notice, there is an Iron Jaw on the front. There is a Bone Splitter to his right, and that is a Maw Crusher in the back, looks like. Yeah, it's a Maw Crusher. Got the right arm. Okay, Iron Jaws and Bone Splitters together at last. Orruk War Clans isn't so much 1 battle tome as 3, containing allegiance abilities and sub-factions for the Iron Jaws and Bone Splitters, as well as a 3rd set of allegiance abilities for the Great Waaagh, a combination of both forces. This offers these popular factions much more strategic diversity, with the ultra-durable Iron Jaws complemented perfectly by the fast-moving and frenzied Bone Splitters. So let's see, then with more magical lores, more artifacts, and more ways to unleash mayhem, this battle tome gives destruction a devastating edge. Here's a legendary lore master and well-known Orruk fan, Phil Kelly. Let's see here. And Phil Kelly, his brutal and cunning book is the stuff of Orky dreams. I'm going to kind of skip that just simply because they don't typically put a lot of information. It's kind of like fluff text. Basically, it's just like he's excited about the combination. He found an excuse to add some boar boys to his Iron Jaw collection. And then we'll skip down to the next battle tome. So I have many thoughts on that, so put a pin in it. Since the beginning of Warhammer Age of Sigmar, we've heard stories of the free cities and the brave alliances of humans, dwarves, elves who guard them. We followed epic stories as Sigmar's kingdoms have expanded from Azir, growing into places and cultures with their very own identities. That's a really cool way to put that. Places that helped you Seasons of War campaign, all the different cities from the Seasons of War campaign. So Hammerhall, Tempest's Eye, Greywater Fastness, Hallowheart, Anvilgard, Phoenicium are now beloved parts of the setting, and at long last, they have a battle tome of their own. So it's Battle Tome, Cities of Sigmar. So what we're assuming here is a combination of all those various factions, but each of them has their own real identity, right? This is the city of Phoenicium, and you can build it to the lore and however you want, but it'll take elements from various things. I'm very excited because... frankly, I would love to use my Stormcast in different ways. Cities of Sigmar takes sub-factions as diverse as Scourge Privateers and the Ironweld Arsenal and forges them into a single force. No fewer than 7 sets of allegiance abilities allow you to field mixed forces of Dwarven, humans, elves, with massive roster of units available. The possibilities for themed armies with this book are limitless, from the fast-moving scout forces of Pistoliers backed up by Grunstock gun haulers from Tempest's Eye to charging lances of Hammerhallion Demigryph Knights. So really jamming it all together. I love it. Let's see. The arrival of Cities of Sigmar does mean a handful of Order units will be leaving the range and becoming Warhammer Legends later this year. We'll be providing a full list of which ones closer to the time. Again, put a pin in that one. I'm going to come back to that. The number of units available in each book is still vast with loads of War Scrolls. What's more, each city can enlist units from Battle Tome Stormcast Eternals into their main force, while Tempest's Eye and the Living City can draw on aid from both Carriage Overlords and Sylvaneth, respectively, as full members of your army that share your allegiance abilities. And then Sam Pearson, who's a rules writer, just kind of gives an idea of basically saying, like, we kind of made these in a way that you can build kind of infinite number of different types of armies. So, yeah. So we're kind of taking a look here. Let's review this one, talk about stuff that we're excited about. Let's see. So I'm going to be chatting about these 2 battle tomes. If you have thoughts on them, go ahead and put it in the chat. I would love to watch or read it off. Ironjaws and Bone Splitters together. Now, interesting things that come with this, right? When they did the Beasts of Chaos book and the kind of the big push promotion for that, they were like, oh, this book is so original because there's like 3 sub-factions and there's 3 allegiance abilities, so you can play them individually or you can just take a mishmash of them all together. But this one's very unique in the sense of it's 2 armies, and you can play those armies individually still. And then they included a third that I don't know, like the idea of the Great Waw as its own kind of allegiance force multiplier thing sounds deeply fascinating to me, right? Rather than saying, here's 3 things, they can work together, you say, here's 2 things, and a third option that I guess is, in theory, supposed to really build in synergies to combining their forces. I like it. It sounds cool. The art on this thing looks sick. You know, it's the way orcs are supposed to be. One thing I do find interesting, though, excuse me. One thing I do find interesting is they do the ultra durable Ironjaws complemented perfectly by the fast moving and frenzied Bone Splitters. I wonder if they're going to change the Bone Splitters to focus on movement. Right now, they don't have a lot in the way of movement. They're still fairly slow, with the exception of the Boar Riders, but then again, Ironjaws have the Gorgruntas. So, I don't know. I'm not sure how vastly different they are, like in terms of speed. So I'm saying if they rewrite the War Scrolls and battalions and spell lores, that kind of stuff, they can really emphasize movement and speed in the Bone Splitters. That's kind of what I'm getting at. Which would be really, really cool if they did so. Right now, I don't think the forces offer a whole lot. But then again, Bone Splitters and Ironjaws are both 2 older books. Ironjaws. But I'm very excited. The idea of smashing and bashing, I'm sure for your Ironjaws only units, maybe, is really, really cool. So I have nothing much to say about that one, but I'm just very excited. This picture looks dope. And actually, I just in the mail got my rogue idol of Gork or Mork, and so I'm going to be putting that together. I think he would fit in super well with this kind of army. So I'm very excited about that. And then we're going to talk about free people, or not free people, cities of Sigmar. Let's see here. I'm going to just read your chat things here quick. Emmanuel, Orruk Hands is following the Gits model of multiple armies in a single book, but considering that the lore of Bone Splitters hunt and kill monsters, how do they balance that with the Maw Crusher? Yeah, it'll be interesting. I mean, anything's up for a rewrite, you know. If they have enough of a... there are stories in their respective battle tomes of Ironjaws and Bone Splitters where a powerful enough war boss for the Ironjaws can command Bone Splitters, and vice versa, right? So it'll be interesting to see how they kind of carve that narrative. I imagine Bone Splitters fighting alongside Ironjaws are dominated the same way Maw Crusher or Grunt is. Probably, yeah, subjugation. So, yeah. Okay. Is this new battle tome replacing the old Orc battle tomes? Yes. So this, in theory, will replace the Bone Splitters book as well as the Ironjaws book, and also their allegiance abilities in the GHB. My understanding is that. Then we're going to move into Cities of Sigmar. So, I have said, since I really started getting into doing lore videos on this channel, which is like pretty early on, the two most important books that Games Workshop needed to release were the Skaven and Humans. And the reason I said that was because Skaven is their most iconic intellectual property, like in terms of something that they came up with and own and have all the kind of patents on. People have a huge fan base, love talking like Skaven, all that kind of stuff. And the second one was Humans in Age of Sigmar. And the reason I say Humans is because we, as readers and understanders of the lore, cannot relate to eternal lightning demigods who don't die and, you know, are built to last hundreds and thousands of years in theory, all that kind of crazy stuff. But we do relate to humans. We do relate to people with our perspective. We can understand how big and strong a Stormcast is if you explain that from a human perspective, because it would look that way to us. And so I always thought this was one of the most important books. But as the story arc and that kind of stuff has developed, and the way that they've integrated other races into these cities, how, you know, they're very scrappy survivalists where they take the best of all cultures, mash them together, and become something bigger. It became pretty clear that doing a free people's book would be difficult. It'd be difficult to encapsulate all the different facets of what humans look like, even from the books that we have, right? And so I think that they were smart and went another route, which is we're not going to give a free people book first, at least. You know, they can do it later. There's no reason they can't, because it's all built around keywords. But we're going to start with the Cities of Sigmar. And that is to say that the major cities and metropolises and outposts and that kind of stuff all have units they can take based on their composition of races that are there. All of them have access to Stormcast because they help liberate them, and they all have their unique culture and color schemes and hierarchy and politics and that kind of stuff. And so I think since they wanted to lean heavily into making the cities incredibly unique and dynamic, that this was clearly the right way to go. But it's our first book with humans in it, and it gives them an opportunity to kind of prune the model range a little bit to make it a healthy and sustainable thing. And we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But on the whole, very, very excited. I was at a swap meet this last week, and there was a huge Empire army, and it was like for $250, and I was like, man, I'm not sure if I want that because it's a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? It's a lot of stuff that all had to be rebased with on squares. And it's like it's a big old thing of change to drop, and I'm getting more excited about skirmish games. I don't know. And so I passed on it, and I came back around to look again, and it was already sold, so I missed my opportunity. But now I'm like, oh, that was everything for people. Oh, that's so funny. That's okay. That's okay. You know what this is really good for is people like Jack from Rolling Ones, who has multiple armies. And you can start picking and choosing bits in here and there, and that kind of stuff. So I'm very excited for the ability to start including units that we just don't see enough of. We don't see enough Scourge Privateers. We don't see enough, frankly, Carriage and Overlords. Giving them new ways to play, new units to complement. Maybe not like allegiance ability wise. Like I'm not sure how that's all going to work, but in terms of cheaper bodies that have more of a melee focus or combined arms type thing, it could really be awesome. So this book does a lot for humans and Duarden in particular. Remember, Fire Slayers are a part of at least one of those cities. I got to pull that up again. I got to find it. It's probably in the deep archives of the community page. But so there's a lot of the Order factions. Almost all of them are were represented in the Seasons of War campaign, which is what they're referencing, right? We've pulled Epic Kingdoms. Oh yeah, Seasons of War campaign. Yep. Okay. Explored in Firestorm. Yes, so both of those places. So there's some really cool stuff going on. Like it's almost. Let me take a look. I struggle to think, with the exception of Seraphon, like what Order faction was not represented. The Deepkin didn't exist, I don't think, at that point. But they have Lethis they can be a part of, which is their own city. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if they put Lethis rules in there. That'd be kind of an interesting thing. Yeah. So, but also, as someone put out in the chat there, this really does help the issue with Elves. Just by the factions they have mentioned. Let's see. What do we got in this picture? Well, those are Wanderer units right there. So that's awesome. That's a Demigryph, Sylvaneth. We got a whole bunch of stuff. So not only, I mean, again, I'm not talking about rules, how effective they'll be, that kind of stuff. What I'm talking about is it is so good for people who play things like Wanderers or Scourge Privateers, all those kinds of things, to have a place to put their models in a supported book. Even if you can take the rules from a particular city and be like, I'm gonna narratively, rules wise it's from this city, but narratively I've made my own that really focuses on Wanderers. That's totally cool. Because they're just representative of very different types of cities in the realms, not necessarily like those specific ones. Anyway, so it really does help the elf situation. I'm going to call it that. Phoenicium, when we start seeing rules for the Frostheart Phoenix and all that kind of stuff, it gives me an excuse to buy a Charybdis, which is a model that I've always wanted to own, because why not? It's a Charybdis. Anyway, so I'm very excited about this book and the possibilities. I think it will. I wouldn't be surprised if it comes out and it either is kind of underwhelming for some of the cities and grossly overpowered for others. And the reason I say that is simply because I love Games Workshop games. They don't have the best track record when it comes to intense balancing and thinking of all the variables. So I'm sure what's going to happen is this book's going to drop, and casual players like myself are going to be like, I can make the city that I've always wanted to make, and put their collection together and be like, this was a lot of fun. And then some tournament guy is going to be like, well, actually, if you take the Hammerhall thing and you take 8 units of blank and you're just like, and crams weird combinations of things together, that's probably going to happen. So just kind of be braced for that. But all in all, I'm very excited about that. When you mash this many factions together, because this is a whole nother level compared to like, Beasts of Chaos are 3 different kinds of things, right? This is like, I don't know, man. You could play Tetris with the kinds of units you have going on here. So I'm very excited about it. I'm very interested to see how it develops. For the purposes of my channel, what I'm most fascinated to see is the idea of how well do they flesh out and develop the backstory for each one of the cities, and then how do they explain these cities going out and doing war? Like, why would, I don't know, let's just pick one, Phoenicium, right? Like, give me reasons as to why Phoenicium would do X and be at this particular engagement. Give the cities personality, and so I think that that's incredible. I'm very excited. One thing I did want to note on was there are going to be a number of units that will be leaving the range and becoming Warhammer Legends. Now, I'm okay with this. Obviously the ones who are fully supported with books are safe, right? You got Sylvaneth here. Nothing's leaving their range. They just got a Battle Tome. Wanderers might be trimmed. I don't know. We see most of their units. At least their most important ones right here. Glade Guard and Rangers and that kind of stuff. Yeah, I think the Empire range might be trimmed down. Some of the Elven stuff. So just, there's going to be outrage, as there always is. And there's going to be a whole bunch of people who are mad over models that they had never had any intention of buying. So just ignore them. Just focus on what you like, understand that models get rotated out and that kind of stuff, but they have new exciting things. So I'm just telling people, enjoy what you have and be really open to new possibilities. So that would be my advice to you. So I spent a lot of time on that one. Actually, before I go to the next thing, I'm going to hit the comments here and see what y'all have to say. Holy cow, it's a Free People's book. Yes, Dave, it is. I'm going to build a Grey Waters army with a lot of free guild guards and tons of cannons. Nice. Seems a bit like a Legions of Nagash book for Order. That's a good way of putting it. Although I think it'd be interesting to say so Legions of Nagash is like you can take all those same units in War Scrolls, but in Legion of Nagash it's like if you're taking the Legion of Blood, right? Neferata, I think she's that sort of one. Yeah, Neferata has to be the general if there's any Mortarks involved, and then that kind of stuff. So it's you have access to everything, but for your kind of subsections, it revolves around the Mortark or Nagash, obviously. And so I think it'd be interesting to say here's a huge swath of units. This city specifically has access to these specific ones, because there's going to be some that don't. Not everyone has access to Sylvaneth allies or that kind of stuff. So it's be interesting. But you're right. I think it is in the grand scope of putting a ton of War Scrolls out there and then giving people tools to take and give from others within that book internally. I think you're dead on. It is like the Legions of Nagash in that sense. Let's see. Dread Nautilus also solves the Shattered Elves problem. Absolutely. I'm excited for that. So I'm excited for this. Interesting that it is cities of Sigmar, not just cities of Order. Might be limiting, even though they can call your army aligned. Yeah. I mean, naming is an interesting thing, but the idea of Sigmar coming back and reestablishing civilization has definitely been a reoccurring theme for him. So that makes sense to me. Let's see. And how they all plan to reconquer Hish. Yeah, that's funny. Bretonnia and High Elves are probably dead. Well, Bretonnia is already there. Most of the High Elf range already is gone. Things that are around for High Elves are like the Lore Master, the Lions of Trace things, a few wizards. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure. I am suspect of any kit that didn't get a price hike, or not necessarily a price hike, but their prices were adjusted to come in line with other stuff that already exists. I'm suspect. But that's just me. Let's see. Swifthawk agents are probably gone. I don't think they want to sell those models anymore. Yeah, until I see pictures of them in things. Yeah, I think that's probably not a bad call, especially if they're using this opportunity to prune their range, drop a bunch of elf stuff, and then when they come out with the Tyrian elves, like light elves, it will reinvigorate that idea of high elves, right? It'll take a lot of that from it. So very, very excited about that. It's a bummer of people's collections. I had high elves when I started AOS on day one. Anyway, so we're going to move along. 11:30 a.m., a short update. We finally had a look at Gotrek Gunnarsson in the wild. And so this is just a picture of him to give you an idea of size and scale. Standing pretty tall on the big pile of dead stuff. I dig it. I don't have any interest in Gotrek, to be honest with you, whatsoever, but I know a lot of people do, so that's a cool picture. And now we move into something that's very exciting, a new Ogre Tyrant. I'm going to play this, and the volume should not be too loud. But we have some cool stuff with the gut busters, at least the grand idea that is gut busters. And they're having themselves a little feast of bones. And so this is introducing a new Ogre Tyrant. If you don't know, the current Tyrant is kind of in a weird place. There's old metal ones that are like, that I don't think look very good at all. And there's a resin one, which is kind of the classic that we have right now. But here we have a current, this is a brand new Ogre Tyrant. Still got the red hand and everything. Got a hammer, spear. I love on his back here for his trophy rack. He's got some skulls, and one of them is a Stormcast helmet. I love it. Don't know how he got it, but I love it. Let's see. And yeah, just they mentioned something called the Maw tribes. Where is that at? Is that what it was called? Yeah, the Maw tribes hunger. So maybe we'll get to that in a sec. So it could be something like prepare for the Feast of Bones. We'll get to the Feast of Bones in a minute. So I have thoughts on what this will be, but I don't want to spoil anything, so we'll keep going ahead. Great looking model. I'm curious what base size is, just because his arm comes out so far. Very cool looking. And then we are introduced to 230. There's almost no information here, so I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it, but basically Season 3 of Warhammer Underworlds was announced. It is called Beastgrave, and the video in the background of voice says that some of the evil from Shadespire followed him out. So this is maybe taking, there's trees and forests, maybe the curse that is Night Vault, or Shadespire is pouring out into the realms, which would be so cool, because then it would give more factions a reason to be there. And there's some cool shapes in the background. I think that's clearly a Gore or Bestigore, maybe something like that. Got a centaur, lady with a bow, all kinds of cool stuff. Like I said, no real details. It's kind of its own jam, but I'm very excited. As someone who's just getting into Warhammer Underworld, sorry, hiccups are killing me this morning. Warhammer Underworlds. Yeah, I'm excited. See, I'm going to hit the chat real quick, make sure I'm not falling too far behind. Let's see. Those 2 battle tomes put us at 9-ish battle tomes this year. We could have more than 10 or 12 before the year's out. This is a good year. It's good, but it's exhausting. It is exhausting. Hagbean over on Twitch. Hey, Doug. Good to finally catch you live after taking a break for a few months. Super hyped for the new tomes. What do you make of the Tithe? We'll get to that in just a minute. That's up higher. I wake up to this. Let's see. That means new Ogre Battle Tome. I'm not so I have some ideas that I'm not sure if it's a Battle Tome, because I feel like they would have announced it with the other two, or if it'll be some kind of expansion that includes rules, kind of like how Lethis and Legion of Grief is a match play thing, but it's kind of a holdover. I had some thoughts on that. So yeah. It's all Ogre now. Let's see. Maw Tribe sounds more intimidating than Gutbusters. 100% agreed. Yeah, Maw Tribe sounds aggressive, like you're going to consume the world. Gutbusters sounds like you just ate it and you're recovering from a Chinese buffet. Okay, so yeah, people are just chatting about how hyped they are for stuff. Hagbean, what warband are you looking forward to the most in Warcry? Bird Boys, Corvus Cabal. But we'll chat about that in another one. I'm hoping Monday to do a live stream where I get my copy. My copy was delayed over the weekend, which is crushing. I'm not gonna lie to you, I was really in the dumps yesterday. I was so sad. But regardless, I am hoping to get my copy on Monday, and then Monday night sit down and just chat about it. You know, I'm not going to read the rule book to you, but we're going to have a good talk. My patrons have a lot of cool questions that they wanted answered. I think you'll enjoy. That's enough about Warcry. So let's go to this thing. The Tithe. At 4 p.m. this is released. And let's, I'm going to turn the volume up a smidge. Let's just watch this. Mm-hmm. Got some Asian sounding music in the background.
I have been killed and reborn, destroyed and remade. I survived the fall of the storm god's hammer and tore my way free from the soul feast's prison. I have rebuilt myself here in my homeland, while my master raised the army I must lead. Soon, we march forth. Soon, we collect the time
Okay.
of bones.
So, what we have, a few things I want to touch on here. So, at the end of the Forbidden Power, a great and terrible force was awakened, and it has big plans for the mortal realms. Just what is Tithe of Bones? Watch this space for more news in the coming weeks. That's pretty much it. That's all we know really so far, but what we have is that voice. I had I'm not sure how I would describe that accent or affectation. Regardless, Part 1, Necropolis. I would love it if they broke down the ongoing narratives to being parts of a series rather than just like one-off releases. So like Forbidden Power should have been Part 1, right? Because that's when whatever this is got released. So whatever, it's out now. They did that now. So now we're going into, I guess, maybe the overarching goal rather than malign sorcery or malign portents could be the Tithe of Bones, right? That's kind of our current arc, if you will. And so Part 1 is Necropolis, and so it's whatever was in there, building up its forces. My assumption from a few things, okay? So everybody I've seen online immediately goes like, oh my god, Tomb Kings are back. Here's the thing. It says it was around before Sigmar, which it does limit what it could be. It could be like it was around the realms before Sigmar arrived in the more realms, or it could literally mean like in the old world before Sigmar became Sigmar. So it's old, but it does still worship Nagash, right? Because he said, my master built an army. So that would be Nagash built an army, freed him for him to take control of. So the thing about Tomb Kings is Cetra does not kneel. Like the idea of Cetra serving Nagash, unless they like, I don't know, there would be a lot of backlash because people get super precious about that. And that's not a derogatory thing. Like people just hold his lore very, very dear. So, yeah. So it could be a new Mortarch, which would be really cool. I would love that. There's a lot of ways that it could go. I would also love. There's a whole bunch of theories you guys are pouring out here. Let's see. Soulblight is my guess. I would love it to be Soulblight. That would actually be my favorite, my pick. New Vampire Lord would be great. Some people saying there's a lot of Mongolian influence in the art and the music. That's an interesting thing. Let's see. My homeland. So maybe he is not from the old world. That's a good point. Yeah, there's a lot of ways it can go. Not a lot of detail was given in that one, but we do have a cool voice. I love, this is my favorite kind of introduction to an army. They did it a lot with Daughters of Cain when they had like the woman who we now know as Marathi, but giving this cool little monologue series of them was awesome. So, I think it would be great. Tides were zombies in Total War for vampires. Interesting stuff. So yeah, I'm gonna move along here. But so again, I'm as much as I really do despise the whole preview, not preview, where it's like something's coming, but we have nothing to tell you about it yet. Speculate wildly and get disappointed. That's they did that like 2 or 3 times with Forbidden Power. I hope they don't do that to us with this, whatever it is. Just like tell us what it is. Yeah, so that's fine. It's fine. I'm fine. I don't like it, but it's cool. I like the narration. They put a lot of work. I think they put far more work into this animation and voice acting and music. There's more flavor here than there ever was for any of the Forbidden Power ones. So I'm down. I love this art style where it kind of the inks bleed into things. And so that is it for the open day. Let me just refresh it to make sure I didn't miss anything. But it says it straight up said that's it. Okay, yeah, we're good. So stuff that I'm most excited about, whatever the main story arc changes are, that's priority number one for me and the channel. Obviously, I'm really into that. I'm probably going to do at some point a story thus far, bringing up all the events that we know from like the Necroquake forward, and that'll be it'll take a while because I want this stuff to kind of be a part of that. So it'll be an ongoing thing, but I'm very excited about it. Warcry, super stoked. I was devastated this weekend. It's okay. I put myself back together, and I'm excited to play it. I am prepping. I'll have 4 warbands ready day 1 launch because I'll have Iron Golems, Untamed Beasts, Stormcast, and Bone Splitters, and I'm very, very excited about that. I mean, and honestly, depending on how things work, like I could almost have a darn near whole Iron Jaws one just based on the like the kind of models you use, brutes and Iron Boys. Yeah. Shadespire or the Warhammer Underworlds. I'm excited for the models. I'm excited to play a little bit. I found a little local group and playing a few games this last week. It's fun. So I was talking about this. The Ogre Tyrant. What if instead of a battle tome, I only say what if instead of battle tome because they didn't show us the battle tome along with the other battle tome. They used some narrative thing, kind of like how Lethis and Legion of Grief came out of Forbidden Power, and used those as testing grounds for a unified ogre book. And so maybe it's not a battle tome, but they're certainly at least rewriting things to be the Maw tribes, which is a much better name. But look at this arm. I love that arm, the guard. I don't know. I like it. So let's see here. My guess is the new version of Vlad von Karstein. Dude, if they do Vlad von Karstein, I'm doing that army, whatever it is. I don't care. I loved Vlad von Karstein. He's a cool guy. Especially his arc in the End Times books. Oh, it was just good stuff. It's a preview for a preview for a preview. Yes. It's exactly what it is. Tyler says I should probably start selling my stuff so I can afford all its new cool things. Yeah, I don't know. I keep looking at my shelf and I'm like, what can I sell? What can I get rid of? But it's probably not for the best. What does everyone say? It's Archon. Is obviously this guy is the dude from Forbidden Power. It is, yes, but people like cool stuff. So, question: do you think Feast of Bones and the Tithe of Bones are the same thing? I don't know. Yeah. So in the end of this video, it says the Feast of Bones, and then in this video it says the Tithe of Bones, and I don't know. It's interesting. So like, tithe is an interesting word because if Nagash thought that the dead were owed to him, he has said multiple times, it's a tithe, right? You tithe to me the souls from Shadespire. The word tithe was used when Sigmar steals things. It's the tithe of souls, all that stuff. So if it's from the Legion of, the death, we'll call it death perspective, tithe makes sense. However, if you're looking at the same event, right, some grand narrative thing where a bunch of the dead are involved, the armies of death would see that as a tithe, but the armies of destruction, meaning ogres, they're still seeing the same thing, so they're going to call it something with bones, but they would call it the Feast of Bones, right? Because they're all about eating, consuming, and moving along. So my point being that it could be the same event, except that they're looking at it from different angles. Death is looking at whatever this event is as the Tithe of Bones, and then the ogres are looking at it as the feast, as the consumers, the predators, and that kind of stuff. So, Tomb King Justin, I have no idea. I like to think that there is one singular event that affects all the factions, gives them all reasons to be involved, like kind of like how the Necroquake happened. I think that's the way forward with keeping all the factions interesting and up to date, but I have no idea. So I like to think it's the same thing. but of course, literal wording aside, there's no reason to think that. Let's see. Maybe ogres is whatever is the tide they speak of. That's an interesting idea. Tactica Imperialis, hey 2+, can't say long, just wanted to put on record, fantastic set of reveals, can't wait for the cities book and to see who's talking in the Tithe trailer. Agreed, friend. Who is Vlad von Karstein? He is a vampire, a very prolific vampire from the old world. Cool guy. He is, okay, someone correct me if I'm wrong, okay, because I can't think of anything else. Is he the only love story that Black Library has produced where Vlad von Karstein has his lovely wife, Isabella, who's like super crazy? I almost cussed, but we'll say bat poop crazy. And they keep missing each other on this eternal quest of dying and being resurrected and dying. And it's this really cool story. I like it. The only thing, someone actually just pointed out, Mogwai Man pointed out, everyone's headed to Shyish. I want the story, whatever it is, I don't care what it is, explore other things. Let me explore Gur. Let me explore Hish, the ones that don't have maps, basically, in the core book. Let's see. Genevieve was a love story. Okay, you're right. Yes. Thank you. Rerolling check. Blood tithe point. Bone tithe point. There we go. How likely is a start collecting box for the old factions, free peoples coming to the cities of Sigmar Battletome? I mean, how likely is it? I mean, I think pretty likely because they're getting more money out of existing sculpts. I wouldn't be surprised if they came out with like a free cities thing and it was like a cannon, a unit of great swords, and something from some other sub-faction, right? Whatever else is ubiquitous, that works for everyone. So I'm not sure, but they've already made their money back on those things. So giving it, just recreating it and reboxing it as a new access point for new folks, it just seems like a no-brainer. Might not happen for a while. The Fireslayer box came out like a year and a half after the first Fireslayer Battletome, so they need time to figure that out. What's the end game of Nagash memes? He has to lose, right? We will see a downfall and uprise. I have no idea. Between Beastgrave and all these destruction updates, I think we'll see plenty of Gur. That's an interesting idea, yeah. It'd be cool if it spilled out into Gur specifically. That'd be kind of fun. Yeah, okay. Well, that's about all I have. At some point here pretty soon, my landlord's going to come through for an inspection and look at the fire, whatever they are, sprinklers. And I'm excited about everything that I see here, so I'm probably going to hop off pretty soon, expecting him. But what I will say, actually, there's Sam Pearson. And yeah, we got a whole bunch of stuff. Anything new and exciting in this picture? Nope, just armies on display. Looking cool. But friends, thank you all so much for joining me. This is a really fun one, just kind of walking through things. I'm most excited for the Iron Jaws and Bone Splitters, the Orruk War Clans book, and then the cities next, and then a few things afterwards. So anyway, thank you all so much for joining me, and we'll talk about all these things in the future. 100%, you can expect lore videos on every single city, on all of the updates and changes to the Orruk War Clans, probably some battle reports on them too, because I happen to really like my Bone Splitters. The models are fun. I'm getting back into them. And we can all follow the main story of, what's it called? The Feast of Bones, Tithe of Bones together. So thank you all so much, and I'll catch you